Okay. Our first consideration for taming the game is what class we're gonna play. I like to play Templar. I just kind of recently discovered how much I like that class. For the aesthetic, the strength and intelligence. And he also has quite a bit of defenses. So I've got maximum life highlighted here, and all the red circles are life nodes that he can reach pretty easily. So I like that. There's also increased armor. He's got a lot of those that he can reach. And he's got some elemental resistances. He's a very defensive, or you can make him a very defensive class. So I'm going to be playing that because I think that that's probably the best way, especially for somebody that's new to the game, to start playing. Because it is difficult to overstate the importance of defenses in this game. This game is not friendly to glass cannons. Even if you have, the twitch reflexes and you can get out of the way of stuff, there is going to be stuff that will hit you. And there's nothing you can do about it. Except, mitigate it. Take it. So, I think that the Templar is a good starting class. And so he gets to have a lot of baked-in elemental resist if you want, and having elemental resistance is so important. By the time you finish Act 1, or no, I think Act 5, you need to have overcapped resistances, because you lose resistances for every stage of the game that you go through, every major stage. So, my approach, I'm going to prioritize defenses in the early game. I might do a little less DPS, but the thing that I think is important to consider is that you can always add more DPS later. If you are so weak, health-wise or armor-wise, that you are getting destroyed every time you go out and try to farm something, then you've gotten into a bad spot. I've had my first couple of characters were like that. They were just too weak to even farm the stuff they needed to get better. So you want to prioritize defense. I would kind of say as much as possible in the early game. So, like I said, we can always add more DPS if it feels like it's just so much of a drag. But it's actually kind of surprising just how much heavy lifting your equipment and skill gems will do if you choose them correctly. So now I'm going to go ahead and actually hop into the game. I know this skill tree looks enormously complicated, and it is, but you only end up using a small part of it, really. So it's and probably my one big gripe about the game is that you have to prioritize life nodes so much. Like, you got to put half your points into life, which is kind of frustrating to me. I wish we could have a little more freedom, but once you kind of start to understand it better, there is a sort of terrifying elegance to this whole tree. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and start recording in game. Alright, here I am, creating a new character. I'm gonna go into the Affliction League, toggle solo self found on, and we're gonna go with the Templar. Yeah. I'll just go ahead and name him Taming Game. I'm gonna go ahead and, skip the tutorials. One thing I do need to say, as a PSA, please use a gamepad. I am going on 40 next year, and my wrists are completely shot from mouse and keyboard. Ever since I started using a controller, it has been so much better. So, my wrists feel a lot better. Whoa! And, so please use a controller when playing these games. I know that it might seem unnatural to use a gamepad on a PC, but your wrists will thank you for it. So right now I'm just working my way through this. I forgot to put the gem in. So skill gems can be slotted into... Once I kill these guys, I'll explain more. There we go. Alright, so I've got this scepter, and it has 2 sockets on it. One is blue, one is red. The red sockets are usually like strength-based things or fire-based things, and this is an active skill gem called Glacial Hammer, which is actually an ice thing, but it's also a hit. And it describes what the thing will do, and the basic gist of it is that these gems are actually your skills, which is really cool. You can, take any skill you want, although it is tempting to take a bunch of skills. It's so tempting as a new player to do that. Don't do that, because in the end game, you are going to need to specialize so hard into basically one specific attack skill that you don't have any room to have a whole bunch of different flashy attack skills. You want to focus on one, maybe two. Like, a second one is a sort of support, thing where you debuff or whatever. And then just pump as much strength into your main skill as possible. So your build pretty much centers around one main skill. And for this playthrough, I'm probably going to be using Exsanguinate as my skill, because I used that in my last playthrough, and I love it. But one big thing about playing, especially solo self-found, is that the game kind of decides for you what you're going to play, how you're going to be geared. So when you're playing this game in this way, try not to focus too much on what your class aesthetic that you want to make is. The game is going to kind of make you go a certain way with the drops. So I just got another gem, and I will take a look at that. This gem is actually a support gem. You can tell a support gem by the fact that it's round like this. It's got kind of a round shape. And what it's doing is it is making my Glacial Hammer a little bit stronger. This supports any skill that hits enemies, and it spreads elemental ailments to other enemies nearby. So this might completely freeze a couple of enemies at once because these 2 gems are hooked to each other. And we got the blue socket and the red socket, and I had to put the red gem in the red socket and that. One thing I have noticed is that there are different classes of armor. There's armor that... there's a race. There's somebody that's the first to reach 75. That's cool. So there's armor that just has armor value. That is like a pure strength thing. Then there's armor that has armor rating and evasion rating. That's for sort of a strength and dexterity based character. There's armor that has armor rating and energy shield. That is for strength intelligence characters, which is what I am. So I'm going to be looking for armor that has both armor rating and energy shield, because when you're trying to roll the colors of these sockets, which I'll explain those later, but you want sockets on your gear, and you want them to be the correct color for what skills that you want to use, since you've got red gems and blue gems and all that. When you're playing a caster class, or when you're sort of going with the intent of each class, which I'm going to be a spellcaster that actually does physical damage. There we go. I want red and blue sockets mostly. And the armor that has both armor rating and energy shield rating appears to be more likely to roll both red and blue sockets. One time I tried to roll a bunch of red and blue sockets onto a dexterity armor, like armor that's made for rogues, and I just kept getting red and green sockets. And it was really frustrating. So you do want to kind of play to the intent of your class with your armor, unless you're making some kind of like crazy weird build. But for Templar, we want armor and energy shield. We won't always get that, especially in the early game. We gotta kind of use what the game gives us. So I'm just fighting this boss here. Oh, I'm using flasks, you can see in the lower left. Oh, almost died. That I have these little healing potions. Those are very important. They become even more important in the late game. Just pick all this stuff up. Driftwood Scepter. Does that do more than my current? No. Now that I might want. I'm actually gonna... Oh, I can't dual wield those. I'll leave that the way it is for now. I'll go ahead and put that on, because it's got more armor. And I'll sell the rest of this. When it comes to drops, you actually want to ignore most drops. Except in the early game. But this robe only has energy shield. I don't want that. I want armor and energy shield, so I will sell that. I'm going to keep this wand, because I was using wands in my other playthrough. I might not use that, but I'll keep it for now. I'll sell this maul. I don't need that. Don't need that. That? Nah, I don't need that. Because I would need to use an orb of fusing to get those sockets connected, and I can't afford that right now. So I'm going to sell that. I've already got one anyway. Sell these. Sell this. And then I've got a little bit of currency. And yes, I do have a bunch of the special stash tabs. I know that might feel a little bit pay to win, but it really does make the game a lot more pleasant. So I am not... my stash tabs don't make me, like, able to do more than other players, but it lets me do it faster, if that makes any sense. It lets me do it more conveniently, with some quality of life. So, if you are opposed to having the pay stash tabs, I apologize for that, but that is the way I play it. I'm going to be skipping all the dialogue, because nobody cares about that. Okay, so I have a choice of a skill gem here now, because I killed that guy. So I can do Smite, which is a melee attack for... It's kind of designed for Templars. Or I can do Frostbolt, that's more of a, wizard type of thing. Rolling Magma will throw magma balls in front of you and kind of randomly hit things. Lightning Tendrils. That looks tempting. I don't really want to do a hit skill. I want to do a magic skill. So for now, I'm going to go with Lightning Tendrils. That's not going to be my final skill, but... And I got a convenient set of gauntlets here that I can slot that into. You can put skill gems into any piece of armor that has a socket for it. But there are some pieces of armor that's got more sockets than others. Ultimately, I want to put my Exsanguinate skill in a breastplate, or, body armor that has 6 linked sockets in it. But that is very expensive. But it is an endgame goal. Just cutting in here to say that these videos ended up being a lot longer than I expected them to. So they're going to kind of start ending a little bit abruptly as I just cut them between zones. So if you can't see the next video yet, go to my channel and check the playlist and see if I have put the next video there yet. That's where I'm going to be putting all these. And hopefully they can go in a nice sequential order. So see you in the next one.